Welcome Traveler, I'm Free-to-Play and I'm your guide for successful free-to-play adventure Nostera. Today we find out which character you should pick at the start of the game. I know, if you're new to a game it's always a pain to know instantly what the best starting character is, so I'll show you all of them in detail, so you understand how the game works at the same time. Let's see what our first starting character is.
Gilderoy. 宝石商だ。
Gilderoy is the tank you can count on from the start to late game. With Insight, he provokes the enemies to only attack him. He has a strong spare move. He imparts himself with 20% physical defense up. He thunder shocks one enemy. He can use his polearm on one enemy twice. And like Insight, he can provoke the enemies, but at the same moment he raises his physical and elemental defense by 15%. And when he has red HP, he grants himself automatic HP recovery. He can hit 3 times with lightning and has always a chance to paralyze the enemy for 2 turns per hit. He can grant himself counters, so if he got attacked, he will strike back. His strongest move attacks only one enemy but grants him HP as reward. And his ultimate move, which is acquired by using a lot of BP, is the winning shot, which counters physical and elemental attacks. And he raises his own attack, his physical defense and elemental defense again for 3 turns. So this is just an amazing skill for this tanky character. But of course, if he is hit by sleep, then he won't counter anything. If you pull this character 4 times, you can get his Awakening 4 accessory, and this grants him extra 100 physical defense. This is just enormous. So what an amazing start for the champions of the continent. And if you have launched the game until this point, you can quit the app and you can just go to options, then you go to delete account, which is on the right side, then you go to yes, of course, yes, and then the account has been deleted. Then you just start the game again and let's see who's coming now.
私は学者のソフィアと申します。
If you know Cyrus from first Octopath, Sofia represents only the ice part of him, but her specialty makes her one of the strongest additions for your ice team. Her standard ice attack is only striking one enemy and the other is striking all enemies. When she has full HP, her SP consumption is reduced by 50%, which is huge. She can strike 2 random enemies and reduce the ice resistance by 15%. She can impart elemental defense down by 15% on an enemy too. And she can also strike a single enemy 2 times in a row and has a really strong ice nuke. And this gets also boosted by her passive, which increases the ice damage by 30%. And we can also lower the ice resistance by 15% again, but 3 times in a row. And her best skill is striking one enemy 3 times in a row with really high potency. But that's not all. We also have her ultimate attack, which strikes all enemies which are left on the battlefield and with a relatively high potency. So if you have an enemy with ice weakness, Sofia is the right unit for it. Her A4 accessory is even better because she can lower the ice resistance from the start by 15% for 3 turns. And this is one of the better A4 accessories. The next ones which are coming aren't worth talking about.
私はビオラ。刺激的な金稼ぎを楽しもうじゃないか。
Because of her being so fast and dealing AOE shield breaking to the enemy are 2 reasons to consider rerolling in the first place. She can sting one enemy 2 times in a row, and she can snatch HP back. She can increase enfeebling effects, so like attack down or defense down on an enemy, and she can do a little fire attack on all enemies, reducing the physical defense down by 10%. And if that's not enough, she can reduce the physical and elemental attack down by 20% too. She can also strike 3 times in a row, and of course she can reduce the physical defense and the elemental defense down by 20% on the enemy. And every time she recovers from the enemy, she's increasing the amount by 50% for herself. She can do a fire attack on the enemy 2 times, which is reducing the shields even when not striking the weak point of that enemy. And she can absorb the SP if they're running out. And here comes the last skill, the double white burst, which reduces 2 shields from all enemies. But we should not forget about the ultimate skill, which is just an enormous nuke and also has the ability to reduce the physical and elemental attack from the enemy. And this is stacking with the one you do with the attack down. So this rounds up this character so much.
僕はポロニアの孫のテオ。
よろしくね。
Theo's double AOE skill is still a rare skill in the game. To make it short, a very balanced character. He can strike a single enemy and he can put regen on the full front row. At the start of the battle, he recovers 1 BP 2 turns. He can thunder shock an enemy like Gilderoy. He can strike 3 times on a random target. He can cure the status ailment of any character and grants immunity for 1 turn. He also has a battle regen and is also increasing the wind resistance by 20%. He also has the passive of not being affected to 50% by any status ailment, and his row partner too. And he has an even stronger lightning nuke. He can restore HP and cure status ailments of a single ally and grant a regen. And I told you before, the X attack, which is hitting all enemies 2 times in a row. But that's not all. His ultimate cures and grants immunity to some status ailments for the entire front row for 2 turns, and if his ultimate is on max level, it will be 3 turns instead, and this is just amazing. And additionally, it's also raising the wind resistance by 20%, which is stacking to the 20% of the esoteric cure, the perfect unit to counter wind elemental enemies.
僕はミロード。巡礼中の神官です。
Millard is the classical healer who can deal quite good damage with his light skills. If he is healing, the potency of his healing skills is increased by 20%. He gives the entire front row elemental defense up by 15% and is reducing the physical attack of an enemy by 15% too. He's dealing light damage to all enemies at once, and he can put up a regen for 1 single unit. Every time he takes damage, he restores 3% of the damage taken and converts that to SP. He can increase the physical and elemental defense by 1 unit by 20%. And he can also restore much HP of the entire front row. And he has an even stronger light attack on all enemies. Light of Heaven is also restoring the HP of all allies and additionally is raising the light resistance by 10%, which is nice to have.
それでは踊り子リネットの舞。
Lynette fits in every team because she's buffing it constantly and she's a very strong fire magician too. She boosts the physical and elemental attack by 1 character. If she's switching the row, the full front row gets physical and elemental attack up by 10% for the turn she was switching. She can strike 2 times with her fan and lower the fire resistance of all foes by 20%. And then she strikes all of them with 1 single fire attack. She can also increase the physical attack and elemental attack by 20% for the full front row, instead of only 1 unit. She's also increasing the fire damage by 10% for her and her row partner. Can hit random foe 3 times with fire damage, and attacks all enemies 2 times and lowers the fire resistance again by 15%. And her last fan skill reduces the elemental defense by 15% on a single enemy after attacking 3 times. But all of that was only the cake. Now we're coming to that cherry on top. Child of the Dance is also raising the physical attack and elemental attack and also the speed of the entire front row by 10 to 20%, and this for 2 turns, and this is stacking on top of all the other buffs she already did to the front row. I just made a comparison with Theo's dual harvest here, fully buffed by Lynette with almost 10 and 12,000 damage on the lower enemy, and now without any buff. We're not even scratching the 6,000 damage here. What an amazing unit to start with.
俺の名はスケアクロウ。
Scarecrow is the bow AoE breaker, which is focusing on crits especially. He's starting by single targeting 1 enemy 2 times. He can also increase his physical attack and crit by 15%. If the enemy is broken, he raises the damage dealt by 20%. He attacks all enemies 2 times in a row, and if short on HP, he can restore himself. His single bow attack can cause bleeding, which can improve the attack of some other units. He's raising his critical damage by 20% from the start, and he's also causing wind damage to all foes, or 4 times in a row on random targets. But his best skill is damaging all foes 4 times in a row. His ultimate is only striking once, but this hit is critting guaranteed, and the damage output on broken enemies with his passive is just enormous. And finally, we have an A4 accessory worth mentioning again. Not for himself, because his passive is giving him 20% crit up already, but if you equip this on another unit, it will profit from this so much.
私フィオル。一応剣の使い手。
She can debuff and buff herself, and the best she can do is hit hard. She can raise the physical attack and physical defense up. and can also strike a single enemy with a sword attack. Imparts herself with physical attack up to 20% for 3 rounds from the start of the battle. Is dealing dark damage to a single enemy and striking one enemy 3 times in a row. And of course can hit all enemies at once. And she can also raise her physical attack and physical defense by 20% too. And when at full HP, she raises her sword damage by additionally 20%. Is dealing dark damage to all enemies at once, and imparts physical defense down by 20% with her strongest sword nuke, and hits all foes 2 times in a row with a powerful sword slash. But her ultimate is very strong too. Cave In is her strongest move, which outnumbers her crumbling cut so much, and takes out the last enemy standing in front of you with a single slash. I think you know which of these starters was my favorite, because I was most excited about her skills. It's Lynette. With the newest banner available until the 18th of July, I finally had the chance to grasp on her again. And I finally got her and could invest 1 Awakening Stone to raise her level 9 ultimate to level 10. This is by far the best ultimate of all 8 starting characters, and it is still one of the best ultimates in the whole game. And on level 10 you can use that even twice, with 1 more round of the buff being active. That is just awesome, and rumor has it that with the anniversary coming in the next weeks, you get one of the starting characters' Awakening Stones for free. So if that is true and you reroll to Lynette, you get one of the best ultimates in the game for free in the first days. This is just amazing, so you shouldn't skip on that when you're starting the game. And if you need any more assistance with Champions of the Continent, feel free to ask any question in the comments or in my Discord group. And if you'd like this channel to class up, I really appreciate a subscription and thumbs up. See you next time, you're free to player.